Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful and very cold neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you'll join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict, Castbox, Audible, Player FM, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have some great guests on the show for you today. First up, Monica Mancias will be returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate her new middle grade rom-com. It's called Taco Tuesday. And later in the show, Lori Keating will be here to celebrate her new YA title called Butterfly Inc. And to wrap up the show, we'll be taking a listen back to a conversation we had with American Idol contestant Christina Christian Siwi. She celebrates, I believe in me, do you believe in you? Are you looking for the perfect gift for a young reader? Woofy and the Dinosaur Dig Adventure, the second book in the Woofy series, is an exciting choice that fosters creativity, friendship, and teamwork. Join Woofy, a small gray stuffed dog, on his thrilling quest to help his friends excavate a T-Rex in the mountains. Young readers will enjoy his humorous adventures and admire his skills as a pup paleontologist, all set in a beautifully illustrated lyrical story. Authored by Helen Rogenson, retired award-winning teacher honored with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. This book encourages lifelong learning while supporting charities for animal rescues and children in need. Don't miss out. Visit us at unpackyourownhappy.com and connect with us on Instagram at unpackyourownhappy. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Join us right now from the United Kingdom. Our guest is back on the show to celebrate her new middle grade rom-com. This will be the first middle grade rom-com that we've celebrated here on Reading with Your Kids. It's called Taco Tuesday. Please welcome back to the show, Monica Mancias. Hey, Monica, how are you?
Hey, Jed, I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm really intrigued and excited to talk about Taco Tuesday. What's this book all about?
It is, as you said, it's a rom-com. It's told in dual point of view, and it's two 12-year-old kids. One is skater boy Julian DeMarco, who has just moved to California from Brooklyn, and he's not at all happy about that because his parents, who are food vloggers, are going through a rough patch and they're separating. And he loves Brooklyn and his skater friends, so he wants to be there. And Dulce is... her family, she's in Los Angeles, and her family owns a restaurant called Fidelia. And her bisabuela, her great-grandmother, opened this restaurant generations ago when she first moved from Mexico. And it was world famous for its authentic Mexican cuisine. And now the restaurant is struggling because a chain, Taco World, has moved in across the street. And so they are trying to revive the restaurant by commercializing it, which Dulce is not happy about. So the two have this meet cute when Dulce is forced to help her family during the grand reopening by wearing a taco costume, which of course, being 12 years old, she is thrilled about. And they wind up crashing into each other. And from there, sparks fly, and they kind of go from enemies to friends to a little bit more than friends.
Awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun. Being in a taco costume at 12 years old. Yeah. I can see why Dulce would not be jumping for joy over that.
No, not at all. I wouldn't be either. I'm not 12.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. I think 12, 13 years old, that's a time where I think for the first time in a lot of kids' lives, they're actually noticing, oh, I have feelings for that person that I'm not familiar with. Yes,
definitely. It's definitely an age of transition. I have a 12-year-old daughter, so I am witnessing it firsthand, and I think it's an interesting age and it's an interesting age to write for, because at that age, they're still very much kids, but also really on the cusp of adulthood. And so they want to play, but they also want to explore all of these more adult emotions and connections and form new kinds of relationships than they've had before. So it makes for a fun experience writing for that age.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, and I know it takes many years for a book to come to life and be on the shelves of a bookstore or a library, but did knowing that your daughter was approaching this age, was that part of what inspired you to write the book?
I think that, yeah, for sure. I think that my literary style has evolved as she has grown. I started writing picture books when she was little, and we were reading tons of picture books. It was the likely conclusion that I was going to have a lot of inspiration for that younger group. I was taking inspiration not only from my daughter, but all of her peers. And I was also a piano teacher, so I had a lot of students that were in preschool and, my daughter's age. And so now, as she's gotten progressively older, the inspiration has shifted because of what I'm exposed to, and also how it reminds me about who I was at that age and what struggles and feelings I was going through at that age.
Yeah. Fascinating. What a future. I mean, maybe in a couple of years you'll be coming on celebrating a new YA title, and then when I actually reach 100, we'll be talking about an adult novel.
Yeah, well, I'm already there. I'm already thinking about YA and adults, and the other thing is I really like to keep myself challenged, and that's part of the fun thing about being a writer is that, I'm working on a dystopian novel right now on the heels of releasing this rom-com. I have a nonfiction middle grade title coming out in the summer, and I'm still working on picture books. So it's fun to kind of challenge myself as a writer to think of new ways to express myself and venture into new categories and age groups.
That's really neat. When you're talking about challenging yourself, do you have to get into a different kind of mindset when you're writing a middle grade as opposed to a picture book? And if so, how do you make that transition?
Yeah, for sure. So I have, you can see, the listeners can't, but you can see I have tons of books on my shelves. And when I'm writing, when I started writing this dystopian book, I picked up other dystopian books, not necessarily middle grade. Some were middle grade. There aren't a ton of middle grade dystopian novels. So I also read in, YA and like The Hunger Games and that sort of thing, an adult. So just to get myself into the mindset. And when I just wrote a new picture book this week, and I ventured over to my shelves and pulled a couple of picture books that are kind of staple mentor texts for me down, and looked through them for inspiration. It is a different mindset, and I do have to switch back and forth. And often I'm working on more than one project at a time. So it can be a little bit tricky to bounce back and forth.
Yeah, I imagine so, because you're telling stories in such different ways. You know, a picture book, you need to tell the story in 500 or 600 words and leave room for the illustrator. And in a middle grade novel, I'm imagining it's what, 20, 30,000 words?
Well, Sing It Like Celia, my debut middle grade, was about 52,000. I think Taco Tuesdays was the same. So yeah, it's between. This dystopian is going to be way more than that. Sci-fi and dystopian tend to be a little bit longer. So anywhere between like 30 and 80,000 these days. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just to get your mind, you tell a middle grade novel in 500 words. I think, the readers are going to be going, okay, so where's the rest?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, when I first started writing middle grade, getting through a full-length novel seemed like such an almost insurmountable challenge. And because I had over the years many false starts trying to write novels and not finishing them before I figured out how to actually get a novel to completion. And then when I spent a couple of years writing middle grade and tried to go back to picture books, I found it really challenging, because it isn't an easy thing to encapsulate a story, a message, a feeling in just 500 words. And like you said, you have to be consciously, actively thinking about how this is going to look, how your words are going to interact with the pictures, and in a way that makes sense and connects to the youngest readers. So I'm finding it really challenging all of a sudden to get back into that mindset and think about how to construct a picture book.
Yeah. Wow. You said it took you a while and a couple of false starts to figure out how to finish a novel. You got to tell us the secret. Oh, can you tell us the secret?
Man, I mean, it's going to sound trite, but, to me, it's just like working any other muscle. It seems, if you've never worked out before, it seems so hard to get yourself into the mindset of going to the gym. And, that first time you go, it's like, oh, it's so hard. Your muscles are sore. But if you establish a practice of going every single day, those muscles get stronger and stronger. And it becomes not just easier, but joyful to return to the practice every day. And I feel like it's the same thing for writing. In those early years, many, many years ago, I would I was what they call in the writing community a pantser. I didn't plot anything. I would have some inspiration one day and I'd sit down and I'd start writing, and 30 pages in, invariably, I would get stuck and go, I have no idea how to write this or what I'm writing, and I would give up and then wait for the next moment of inspiration to come, which could be a year later. Now, I am, a full-time writer. I write every single day for several hours. And so it's not easy, but it's just the discipline of sitting down and writing every day. And for me, I am now much more of an outliner. So I don't do a huge, crazy outline, but I will write maybe like a 10-page synopsis. And I use that as my roadmap to get through the book. And that has definitely helped me to get from point A to point Z.
Yeah. The characters that we're going to meet in Taco Tuesday seem very, very different. Where did the inspiration for these two characters come from?
That's a good question. Where did they come from? I think, this was, I should mention actually that this was an IP project. So Scholastic approached my agent about having somebody that she represented write this book. And they gave me a paragraph about, a handful of sentences with like a basic plot. This is what we want this book to be about. And then I had to spend time fleshing it out and making these characters real and figuring out what their backstory was and what they were feeling every day and who their family is. And I think with Dulce, it was perhaps a little bit more based on my own experiences in the world, just being a Latina and having lived in Los Angeles for the vast majority of my life, and being able to kind of pick out the archetypes that I had met in my life. And it was so much fun creating these interactions between Dulce and her family members, because they're very much this like loving, joking, Mexican-American family that are very close and tight-knit. And, the abuelo and the mom and the aunt and the uncle and the primos all work together in this restaurant. And Mexicans, we like to joke with each other and have nicknames for each other. So that was all based on my own experience. And then Julian kind of came out of my imagination. I don't know where I pulled him from. I just went, okay, he's Italian American. He lives in Brooklyn. He's a skater. I knew nothing about skateboarding, so I had to do a lot of online research and have like a couple of web pages up that had skateboarding terminology and slang that I could kind of look to. So yeah, it was a combination of experience and just inspiration.
Yeah. Did Julian evolve a lot during the writing process?
Yes. And that's always a fascinating thing to witness, because when you start writing a book, at least in my experience, the characters are very two-dimensional or very one-dimensional. And they, you've got this kind of vague idea of who they are. And then as you're writing, certain experiences, they'll start to say things and do things that maybe you hadn't intended for them to do. The book I'm writing right now, the main character's kind of, middle grade love interest. There wasn't supposed to be a love interest, first of all. He just kind of walked onto the page at the beginning of the book and became this incredibly charming, witty, funny character that had this intense chemistry with my main character, and so the characters will just kind of write themselves and write their own backstory sometimes.
Yeah. I'm curious, you shared with me before we started recording that you've been in the UK now for about 8 months or so, and you're living in a very different world than you were in LA. You're more rural and small town, a small village. Has that changed the way you're looking at the world, and has that changed the way you're writing?
That's a big question. Yeah, I think it's definitely changed my vibration. The vibration here coming from Los Angeles and just kind of the hustle and bustle. And we were in a suburb of Los Angeles, but, between two very busy streets, and life was fast paced. And here I'm in a village that has 11,000 people. It's very green. It's very quiet. You can hear a pin drop at night. So my vibration has changed. I think I'm a lot calmer. I don't think I've seen it hasn't influenced my writing yet. And I think part of that is because I am a writer. I don't have a gig outside of the house, outside of my office. So my writing world is still the insular writing world that it was when I was living in Los Angeles. So it's all kind of happening here in my mind. But I do hope that over time, as I get to know this new culture and venture out in, learning more about the history and the natural landscape, I certainly hope that it will seep into my stories.
I could see it would be a lot of fun having a character like Dulce show up in your little village and in her taco costume and bumping into an English skater boy.
Yeah, I've definitely considered that. And I did have the experience. My dad, who is Mexican, he spent 3 years in Cambridge when I was middle school aged. He moved here when I was 8 and left when I was 11. And so I would come and spend the summers here. And so I definitely have that, I remember exactly what it felt like to come here and see people cutting their pizza with a knife and fork, and have fish and chips for the first time, and salt and vinegar crisps, which were not available in the United States and I thought were delicious. Mm-hmm. I got to meet Princess Diana. There were these little moments that were very, very big moments for me as, a young person. So I hope to draw on that at some point.
Yeah. Now, I shared with Monica before that my beautiful wife and I were in the UK a couple of months back. I had experienced fish and chips here in Boston, and of course have experienced tourists eating pizza with a knife and fork. But I had never experienced mushy peas. Have you come across mushy peas? And what do you think of them?
I think I had mushy peas. I think on New Year's we went to one of the local pubs, and I dipped into something that looked like green hummus, and I believe it was mushy peas. And yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah. I remember when we first ordered some fish and chips in Ireland, and the person said, like, mushy peas with that. I'm like, what in the world are mushy peas? And she goes, they're peas and we mush them, and that's the recipe.
I feel like I still have so much to try and explore here, but I'm slowly, I finally had a Yorkshire pudding over the summer, and I didn't know that I was eating a Yorkshire pudding, and I asked the waiter what it was, and she said, oh, that's a Yorkshire pudding, and it was not what I was expecting. It's not pudding at all. It's like bread,
Wow. Has there been anything that's happened to you, or have you run across anything in your new home that is like sparking something? You say, I'm going to write about this soon.
Oh gosh, I can't think of anything specific, but no, that's not true actually. Yes, and it would be more based on my daughter's experience, because my daughter had to transition. Like I said, she just turned 12. So she would have been going into 6th grade in the US. And she had to transition not just to middle school, but to secondary school in a whole different country. She wears a uniform now. The structure of the school is completely different. And it's been really interesting watching her experience and watching her go through, the initial just heartbreak and grief of being away from her friends and her home, and then, going to this new school and the way that people reacted to her. She instantly became the popular girl, oh my gosh, are you American? Everybody knew her name because she was the American girl. And, so with that came some new pressures to be a certain way and to continue to be likable. And, that has definitely been fodder for inspiration. And I feel like there's a graphic novel turning in the back of my mind there.
Yeah. Now, without revealing anything about your daughter, that's private, has Writing Taco Tuesday prepared you for her first rom-com relationship?
No.
I wish this was a video show. That expression, we got to see if we can capture that. That was like, no.
No, I am just dreading, and the questions come daily. I know that it's coming. It's on the horizon, and she certainly has admirers, so I'm bracing myself. But no, can a mother ever be prepared for that?
Probably not. Probably not. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Taco Tuesday and all the other great works coming from your imagination.
Yes, you can find me on my website is the best place, since social media is kind of in a shifting landscape. You can always find me at monicamancias.com, which is Monica, and Mancias is Mancillas.
We've had a really fun time speaking to our friend, the author of Taco Tuesday, middle grade rom-com from Monica Mancias. Monica, thanks so much for being back with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey there, families! Are you looking for an exciting way to bond and learn together? Look no further than our STEM is Family Fun video series. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of STEM through hands-on activities right in your own home. Our series features lessons from experts at renowned institutions like the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, the National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C., and Children's Museum Houston. From making homemade rainbow bridges to creating an oboe out of a straw, there's something for everyone in the family to enjoy. So grab your lab coats and get ready for an adventure. Go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the STEM is Family Fun link at the top of the page and let the learning and laughter begin. STEM is Family Fun, where learning and bonding go hand in hand. Join us right now from the very chilly state of Florida. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new YA novel. Is called Butterfly Ink. Please welcome to the show, Lori Keating. Hey, Lori, how are you, other than being cold?
I am great, Jed. Thank you so much for having me.
Delighted to have you on. We were chatting beforehand. You're in the middle of a very, very weird cold front down in South Florida.
Yes.
I imagine there's thousands of people down there on vacation looking forward to lying on the beach, and they're getting really bummed out because it's cold as anything.
Yes. And even in North Florida, my best friend lives in Pensacola, and they got 10 inches of snow. That's crazy.
10 inches of snow in a place where they don't have shovels and plows.
Right. So everything's shut down.
It's really fun. I've traveled the U.S. Doing educational magic shows for 35 years and was down in Virginia when one of those weird, unusual snowstorms hit. And there was only a dusting, as far as I could see. There was only a dusting of snow on the highways. But boy, talk about people forgetting how to drive. I mean, it was insane.
Yes. That's yeah. So
Well, let's warm up a little by talking about Butterfly Ink. Who are we going to meet in this novel?
sorry about that. My dogs are acting up. Yeah, so Callie is the main character in Butterfly Ink, and she has just graduated from high school. And her best friend had moved away a few years earlier to a private island off the coast of Florida. And Callie goes to visit Becca on this private island. And while she's there, she meets this mysterious man who offers her a magical tattoo, promising to transform her into beautiful and offering her fame.
If I was a dad, and I would have taught my daughter to run away as fast as possible.
Yes, well, since she's without her parents right now, she makes some poor choices, and of course that's part of her learning process throughout the novel.
You know, you bring up this idea that this strange man is offering Callie beauty and fame and all of that, and it's so sad that so many kids these days, that's exactly what their aspirations are. There's, they're not thinking about career or family or love. It's, I want to be famous.
Right. And especially in the age of today, with TikTok and Instagram and, the influencers, what inspired me to write this novel was, my daughter was, she was 10, about to be 11, and she started to become aware of, some girls that, to her that looked appealing, the outward beauty, the fancy clothes, the makeup and all that. And, not that any of that is necessarily bad. It's just that, that we wanted her to have more of a, idea that like the inner beauty is, so much more important than outward beauty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was lucky I was lucky that I didn't have social media when I was a kid, because I am sure there would be lots of really dumb things that people would be pulling up right now. I'm also lucky that my kids, who are now adults, social media was just starting to be a thing when they were in their teens. And so they weren't immersed in it as kids are today. And it's really, it's the past, like 5 to 10 years, the world of teenagers has really turned upside down, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And we homeschooled our daughter up until seventh grade, and last year she had gone to school for the first time, and we, even enrolled her in a private school, thinking, what could go wrong? And she was faced with a lot of stuff, really quickly, even fake posts, that girls were creating to try to sabotage other girls at the school, and just the different things that, social media has, that they have access to, that I'm thankful also it wasn't around when I was younger, but it's so hard, even monitoring that, for our kids now, because it's, I want an Instagram account is what my daughter, would say. And so, it's like, okay, well, we have to monitor that though, because I mean, there's so much outside stuff, even just, in, people that want to befriend them that, is not necessarily who they are. And so we just feel like we're having to teach her so many things that we didn't have to be exposed to, when we were younger. So it's difficult.
That whole idea of we have to teach our kids, and we probably should have been taught this at a young age, but right now it's very important that we teach our kids that people who approach you, there's a good chance that they're lying, that they aren't who they say they are.
Right. Isn't that sad though? I mean, it is. It's like, you want them to experience life and to trust people, but at the same time, it's like, but be careful. It's like, it's always that, be careful of, because you don't really know what someone's intentions are or if they are who they say they are. So, yeah, I wish we didn't live in a world like that, but, unfortunately we do.
Yeah, indeed. It's very, very sad. And one of the things that I did with both my kids was when they wanted to get on social media, it was like, fine, that's fine, but we're going to be connected on social media.
Yes, definitely. Yes. And we've even so now our daughter's 14 and, she has even, started there's some boys that, want to text her or something. And, so we made a rule with her. If they want to text you, then dad has to be part of the chat. So, yeah. And so far, no boys have texted her yet. I think it's solves the problem.
I completely understand. That would be the last thing I'd want to do.
Right.
Text the girl and her dad when I was 15. But that's certainly that's a great strategy, because as much as a 15-year-old won't want to text your daughter with your husband in the conversation, a 21 or 25 or 35-year-old creep is gonna bail from that very quickly.
Absolutely.
How is response to Butterfly Inc. so far?
Actually, it's been really great. People have loved the idea about the magical tattoo and the transformation of Callie, how she goes from, sort of like plain to then beautiful, famous, and then has to make a decision towards the end of whether she wants to remain in that lifestyle or choose the people that she loves the most. And, that message seems to be going over really well.
This seems, from what we've talked about so far, it seems like a great opportunity, if we're co-reading Butterfly Inc. with our kids, to have a conversation about just what's most important in life.
Yes, definitely. And that is the main message of what is most important in life.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to reveal any spoilers and ask what you feel is the most important thing in life. I got a feeling I could guess, though. Has your daughter read Butterfly Ink, and what does she think about it?
She actually has not. And I've been on to her about that. And her friends have read it. And her friends have told me that they absolutely love it. And they love that, because there's a little romance in there too. And then also I do a contrast of the different, boys, young men that are interested in her, in the main character, Callie. One is, famous and very extremely wealthy and can offer her, the world. And the other boy he's down to earth and takes her on adventures and appreciates her for who she is. So that has been a message that the girls really love.
Yeah. This age group, is this an age group that you especially love writing for?
Oh, wow. I do love writing for this age group, but I actually write all genres. So I do have a picture book and I have a middle grade novel. And then I did just sign with an agent for an adult romance. So yeah, I just love telling stories. And but my main message or theme, I guess I could say, with all my stories is really I love, talking about the depths of human experience and emotion and, the big questions about life and love and things like that.
So very, very important to have conversations with our kids about these things. I think a lot of families might shy away from opportunities to talk about these things, mostly because they just assume their kids don't want to talk to them about it, and that might be the way their kids are acting. But our kids really need us to chime in, and co-reading a book like Butterfly Ink just might be, and talking about it might be the key to open up those conversations, so that you're not talking about your kid, you're talking about the characters in this book.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Tell us, you mentioned that you write middle grade and picture books. Tell us a little bit about those works, please.
Okay, so actually both my picture book and middle grade are a dealing with grief kind of story. The picture book on a smaller scale, it's about a little girl who loses her best friend and neighbor who lives across the street from her, and she wants to do something special for his parents, so she creates a memory quilt for them and gives it to them as a gift. And Angels in the Sand is my middle grade. That's my newest book that just came out January 7th. And that is a dealing with grief story about a little girl who has lost her dad and then finds out that her grandmother is dying of cancer. And she is going to Maine for Christmas to spend one last Christmas with her grandmother. So she creates this must-do list for them to do while she's there. And, she processes grief differently throughout the story, first from her dad that she didn't get to say goodbye to. And then, spending this time with her grandmother where she knows that this is the last time she's going to see her. And, so that, creates an interesting dynamic for the story. And then just, she gets, like, along the way, she meets different people who feel like that they see signs, I guess you could say, of, for instance, one lady is at the airport and she sees her son's casket coming down the airplane ramp, and a bird flies around and lands on the casket, and it's a blue jay. And she tells Jess, the main character in the story, that That's her son's way of saying he's in a better place. And so those different people that she meets, tell them their story of why they feel like someone, gives them comfort of their grief, through different signs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All of the books that you're talking about deal with some pretty important, pretty heavy issues. Is it difficult for you to kind of dig deep and kind of share part of yourself in these stories?
Not, it's funny. It's easier for me to write them than to like articulate it talking about it. But, I guess because 5 years ago, I went through a really difficult time where I almost died. And so after that, it's kind of been easier for me to add that deep, heavy emotion. And most people don't want to talk, like what you said, most people don't want to talk about stuff like that, grief and things. Like, when I was a little girl, I was not allowed to go to funerals. I didn't, but my first, becoming aware of grief was when I was 10 years old. And that's what I made the character Jess. I made her 10 years old in the book because that was my first experience, losing my grandfather. And so I didn't get like closure of getting to go to the funeral or even talking to my mom about it. She was raised in a family where they didn't talk about anything like that. And so I really had to learn to process that stuff on my own. And it's difficult. It's difficult as a child to do that.
It really is. I grew up in a similar way. I was just sharing with my wife. We drove past a little pond where one of my neighbors, when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, one of my 4-year-old neighbors drowned in that pool and pond, and none of us were able to go. We just heard these stories, like, oh, they had a teddy bear in the casket with him, and it's crazy when you think about it. And I was mentioning this to my wife, and we took a completely different approach with our kids. My son went to my dad's funeral, when he was 6 months old. And, just because we wanted him and my daughter to know that this is a part of life, and
yes,
to cherish the moments that we have with each other.
Exactly. Definitely. And that is one of the messages that is in Angels in the Sand, is cherishing the moments and the memories. It's so important.
Yeah. It sounds like that near-death experience really kind of changed you.
It did. Yes, definitely. And really my healing came from writing, just writing stories. As soon as I was able to, because I had a lot of physical, issues, I guess, and just my vision wasn't all the way 100%, and just my brain and motor development, everything was just. It was a process. It's been a process. I still struggle with some stuff even now, but writing has been like my saving grace. It's been my therapy. It's been, it's been my healing. And so, that's what really put me on that path, was that moment, that experience.
It sounds like just like talking about Callie and the other characters in Butterfly Inc. instead of directly talking about issues with our kids. It sounds like you, instead of writing down in a diary or a memoir what you were going through, writing about other characters was a way to kind of process that healing and share those feelings.
Sure. Yeah. Because even in the opening pages, the prologue of Butterfly Inc., that she goes through a really hurtful and embarrassing situation at school. And it's kind of funny because I had met with an editor, over this story, and she said, But, something like that wouldn't I would expect Callie to be like this homely, unattractive girl that something like this would happen to. And I said, well, really something like, it wasn't that story that I used for Callie, but it was another embarrassing story that happened to me when I was a teen girl. And so it's like, I wanted to, make her relatable, that she was, like any one of us teen girls out there, rather than make her like as if she was homely and then went beautiful. It's like, no, she was already just naturally beautiful, but, then has the opportunity to get extraordinary.
Famously beautiful. Yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Butterfly Inc. and find out more about you.
You can go to my website at lorikeating.com.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Butterfly Inc. It's the new YA novel from our guest, Lori Keating. Hey, Lori, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you, Judd. I appreciate you.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. I am so very, very excited. Joining us right now from Southern Florida, our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called I Believe in Me. Do you believe in you? Please welcome to the show, Christina Christian Siwi. Hey, Christina, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
I'm really excited to have you on. I love the title of your book, I Believe in Me. Do you believe in you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great how it started. My eldest son, who's now 17, he just turned 17 Christmas Eve. He was about 2.5, and he was starting out in Pee Wee sports and starting to do things. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to build confidence in him, just as my parents had built confidence in me. And so I wrote this poem for him, which 14 years later, we, finished it. And I found a great illustrator and completed the book. But I've used the message with my eldest son and my 2 other kids. And I'm really hoping that it provides a way for other children to build a narrative of belief in themselves.
That is so very, very important. Just the idea that building up your kids' confidence in them to know that they can achieve amazing things.
I think it's super important. I look back at my life and a lot of the things that I've been able to do, why did I go for them, right? Why wasn't I afraid? And it really comes down to my parents always told me that if there was anything I wanted to do, I could do it as long as I worked hard for it and I believed in myself. So those 2 pillars are truly what has allowed me to take risks, have allowed me to go audition for American Idol, has allowed me to travel the world and not be afraid, or not succumb to fear. Because I think fear is natural and that's completely fine. But to have the confidence to push through anyway, I think is really what's needed for not only going after your dreams, but just living, daily life and going through the complex things that life provides to us. So yeah. That's my hope. I'm hoping truly that this book is able to impact other children like it has truly impacted my children.
Yeah. Now, it might have, just kind of crossed your ear, and it might have made your ear perk up when Christina said that she auditioned. She said, I auditioned for American Idol. She didn't tell you she was a top 10 finalist in the first season. So you did more than just audition. You really went for it. And after you got into the audition and listen to Simon say something nasty about you or other people, I'm sure, you were still able to go on and compete on that very huge stage.
Yes, very huge and very new stage for the audience as well as like for us, right? Like it was a brand new format. It was just so different in every, these are live shows in front of, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And regardless of how you felt that day, if you didn't have enough sleep, if your throat was hurting, if, you were sick, which I was during the show, like you had to get up there and perform anyway, right? So there was a lot of lessons that we learned through Idol. It was a blast. The tour that we had afterwards was amazing, to live a dream of performing in arenas, around the country, 30 different arenas around the country, sold out arenas. That was amazing. To have the lifelong friendships that we have. It was really like a fraternity or a sorority thing, right? Like I feel like Idol was like, is how we rushed. That was us rushing. And it taught us all so much about ourselves, and truly what we're capable of, and really young. I was 21 years old. So it was really a new adventure that I grew so much from.
Yeah. How do we're living in a time right now where the country is really divided, and it seems like people can't have a discussion with each other. It's like, I'm on this team, you're in that team, and a lot of what kids are hearing these days is that life's unfair and this is against you, and there are lots of injustices and there are a lot of issues, but how do we recognize those and encourage kids to work to solve those while still being positive, understanding that, yep, that you're going to get bumps and scrapes and not everybody's going to be your fan, but you can still get out there and you can still do it and succeed?
I look back, I'm first generation American. Both my parents were immigrants. So I think that in and of itself, for what they taught me was there's always going to be people against you. There's always going to be tough situations, and you have to realize that they exist. Because like you said, injustices are real. That happens. It's going to happen to everybody, right? But you have to remember, and that comes back to my book and that's where I got that message, was really from my parents. Like, you have to believe that you can do something, that regardless of somebody getting in your face, regardless of somebody trying to stop you, that you have what it takes to succeed, and you have to put in the work. So I think it's just, I'm not necessarily a forever optimist, but I do look at the reality and I say, you know what? Things can happen in a good way. Things can happen in a bad way. And I choose to believe that they're going to happen in the good way. And if life knocks you down, which I've been in situations, I didn't win American Idol. I was sick during Idol, right? I failed on a large stage, but I was able to say, okay, that happened. Now, how do we get back up and keep going, right? And that, I think, is just because of the belief in self. Okay, I failed on that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to fail again, or it doesn't mean I'm going to fail at something else. And I think that comes down to the narrative of belief, and why I felt so strongly, especially during COVID, to finally put this out, because I saw it help my children, right? Like I know that it helped me, and I know that going through any struggle and to overcome any struggle, you need to have that belief in yourself, because there'll always be naysayers, right? There'll always be people, even sometimes in your close circle, that don't want you to succeed, but you have to believe that you will succeed in order for you to do it.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Until then, please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, @readingwithyourkids on Instagram, and @JedleyMagic on X. Of course, if you want to find our STEM is Family Fun and our Drawing with Your Kids videos, you can find those on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And of course, our website, you're always welcome to visit us at our website, readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, First, Monica Mancias. Please be sure to check out Taco Tuesday. Also want to thank Laurie Keating. Please be sure to check out Butterfly Inc. And we want to thank our Listen Back author, Christina Christian Siwi. Please be sure to check out I Believe in Me, Do You Believe in You? I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.